Morning, everybody. We will call the Wright County Board of Commissioners August 17th meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Alrighty.
Morning, Mark.
For our minutes from August 10th.
Going fast enough.
I'm trying to push the year, huh? Of August 10th, does anybody have any changes, corrections, additions, minuses?
I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve last week's minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything they need to add to the agenda? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like removed for further discussions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
thank you. Under admin B1, the contract for fleet services, fleet card services, and C2, Sheriff's Office contract. Just a couple inquiries about that.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with removal of B1 and C2.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussions? For a moment, I thought we were doing bingo here. Sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Say bingo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I was almost tempted to.
Under administration B1, question about the fleet card service versus the P card, which we talked about before, and I'm wondering how the two compare, if there is a comparison as far as the savings to the county of using one over the other, and if there is any kind of a policy or recommendation out there for employees to use one or the other.
The fleet cards are available predominantly to the sheriff's office, and they are for fuel and automotive type services only. So the comparison is that in itself, the fact that they are limited in its use to fuel and automotive type services. Wiper blades, if you will, for example, would be an allowable on the fleet cards.
Okay, then, so we got these 46 other, let's say, motor pool cars for other divisions to use. What do they do for fuel then? I guess ideally they'll get it at our shop if they're there, but if they're not and they're on a long transport or something happens, then they have the option, or?
They would be allowed to use their P cards.
Yes, but it's predominantly the cars are just used by.
Oh, so none of the others even have the fleet?
For the fleet, correct.
Oh, okay. And is that a bigger savings than if they would use the P card for buying fuel? As far as this 1.7% rebate that we get for using this fleet card?
They kind of go hand in hand is what, so under this contract, there's two.
Under the contract that we currently, under this cooperative agreement, the U.S. Bank goes out and gets quotes for P cards and for fuel cards. So as being part of this contract, we get both. It's all under there. So the rates and the rebates are similar. As you can see, it's 1.7. So this was a better deal than our current vendor, which is Voyager. So we're getting a better rebate by doing this WebEx than our current. So that's why we switched.
That helps. I didn't know that it was only the one office that was using the fleet cards when we had all the other.
Deputies are out kind of all over Minnesota, so it might be kind of hard for them to come back down to.
Oh, right. Yeah, I realize that, but I didn't know about the other groups that we had out there with their own vehicles. Sometimes they're doing transports here and there.
The majority of those, of the health and human services cars and the other ones that are around for fleet use pretty much stay fairly close. So they should be able to fill up at the county site all the time.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Then the next item for the sheriff's office contract. Morning, Chief, thanks for coming in. Morning. And so, one thing as I was looking through, there's 4 this week, and 2 of them have a date that this is gonna take effect, and 2 don't. So I was wondering about that, if that's typical, or if something isn't finished with 2 of them?
I didn't hear
St.
what you
Michael and Hanover.
I didn't hear what you said. To take effect when?
Oh, there's blanks for Hanover and St. Michael's contract, and the other 2 have a date when it looks like it takes effect. So I was wondering if there's something pending with Hanover and St. Michael that part isn't filled in?
No, it's probably just an oversight. We are in discussion with 5 of the cities about increasing their contract hours and how to get them to where we think they need to be, but that's not been settled, so they've just agreed to go with the hours that they've already contracted with in the past, and then we'll do an amended contract if they decide to increase their hours.
Okay.
But the date should indicate January 1st.
Okay, it's right at the top of the page, but if you look at it again, I don't know if you have to fill that in or somebody else, but it's,
Traditionally, we do that when we execute the contracts in administration.
but there's, if you look at we got 4 today, and 2 of them are filled in at the top with a date.
Correct.
They were probably filled in by city administration from the cities that, when they signed their contract on their end.
Oh,
Correct.
okay. So then you kind of answered it. Is there a trend with these cities to get more coverage or less, or stay the same when the rate's raising this time for 2 years, have you heard, or?
No one is looking at decreasing hours. There are some that are looking at increasing, and we're trying to assist them to decide where that best balance is.
Okay. And last thing is, how close to the actual cost of that squad and that person is that rate? Just because I read the whole list of services, of course, that we provide, but I know, I gotta think that it's hard to kind of put a figure to that, but any idea how close that is?
We try to get as accurate as we can. That gets vetted through the Ways and Means Committee. And the formula to figure out the rate is relatively complex, and there's a lot that goes into it. But we're recouping the cost of a variety of things, from wages, work comp, squad, insurance, prosecution, all those different factors.
And it's pretty close, do you think, that to the actual, or?
We think it's pretty close.
Okay.
Commissioner Kitchener?
Yes.
We've been working on it for many years about getting it more closer to accuracy. I'd have to say it's still not there yet, but it's a lot better than it was at one time. So it's not something we can just go and change the rate to get exactly where it belongs.
And it varies depending on, you know, what settlements you have with your union and contracts, and so sometimes those, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
That's fine.
So there's some of those things that lag maybe, but, but the sheriff's office has been pretty diligent the last few years about trying to get it as accurate, you know.
We want to show at least what the actual costs are to the constituents, to those cities, so they realize what kind of a deal they're getting.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Vetch?
So, because what historically has kind of happened, sometimes if we make too big of a jump to recoup 100% of our costs, the cities have a knee-jerk reaction sometimes and reduce hours, which then ends up costing us even more at the county level, because we're still having to, as you would know, still have to take those calls. But unfortunately, then the city's is just not funding the share that they should. So it's kind of more of a finesse game to make sure that they're getting the amount of hours they need to and are paying the share that they need to. So we're incrementally getting there.
And again, we want to show them what the realistic number is, because it's not just the sheriff, it's the jail, and it's the attorneys, and it's court services. I mean, it's,
Yep.
There's a lot that goes into it.
I know, there's been a lot of discussion. I think I remember when the rates were $50-some an hour for some reason. I don't know how long ago that was, but it hasn't been brought up by us. And looking at the budget book, I didn't see it was brought up there. So I thought, well, 2 weeks in a row and we'll see how close you think we're at. So that's all I had, Chief. Thank you.
What was it? There was some history of it that came out.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah, originally in '73 or something, it was like $5
It was
an hour or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
you got it
yeah,
right
he's got
there.
the spreadsheet, yeah.
So what was it?
1972 was $3.65.
Okay.
76, it went to $6.
Oh,
Wow. So can you imagine if we made 100% increase?
And I'll guarantee you that back then, that was anywhere near the cost.
Oh, I'm sure not.
All right,
With that, I'll make a motion. That's all I had. Thank you, Chief. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with those 2 items, B1 and C2.
I'll second that.
motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Now, I'd like to know how you did this one, Lee. There are no timed agenda items.
Yes, this is certainly an anomaly. We don't have this happen very often, so just kind of the way the cards fell here.
All right, so we'll go on to items for consideration. Letter of support for a no-horn request for trains in the city of Maple Lake.
Mr. Chair, so I was contacted by members of the city council in Maple Lake, and they're beginning this process, which is, I guess, somewhat of a lengthy process. They understand that there's going to be some work that they'll have to do on Highway 7 and have to getting a right-of-way permit on that. But they're looking for support from the county in their efforts. I've talked with Virgil; he has no concerns with it. So, looking to see if the board would approve the putting together a letter for their process.
Have we done this for the other cities in the past? Because I know Albertville was looking at it. I know the highway department was kind of working together with it. So I was just kind of curious if we did it for anybody else.
Mr. Chair, Buffalo has a no horn.
Yeah, I know, but I just was, we never supported that one, that I'm
They
aware
didn't
of.
request us.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of curious.
But maybe as a smaller city, they
Could be.
figure they needed help.
All right. You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I will make that motion if the board is inclined to support this. I would appreciate it.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions?
Mr. Chair, just a question. How many crossings are there through Maple Lake? I can't picture it in my head. Is there one by the lumberyard?
There's
Post
one
office.
by the lumber, yeah, there's one right there kind of down the main street. There's one on the east side, and then I'm trying to think where the city limits end. The one on the west side, I don't even know if that's still in the city limits
know
yet.
if it
I don't
is
think it
either.
is. I think there's only 2 that are actually in the city limits.
And the one in the city has got arms and flashing lights, right? That's
I
not
believe
just-
so. I
Yeah,
think
the
they
one,
all
the
do.
one, yeah.
Okay,
Goes through right downtown there.
Yep.
all right. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Well, here's hoping it works for them.
All you can do is try.
Yep. All right, on the committee minutes, Commissioner Houston has volunteered to do committee of the whole.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Committee of the Whole met on August 9th. The commissioners were present along with Administrator Kelly and a number of staff. And the discussion was the new government center lease rates. And Administrator Kelly stated that the spaces for discussion include dental clinic, Wright County Economic Development Partnership, and the License Center for the new government center. Assistant Finance Director Heather Lemieux presented the lease option rates, and they're calculated annually in accordance with federal requirements. Other dental offices were contacted also for the comparisons. However, no like comparable was found. So the option 1 is for $19.60 per square foot. It includes depreciation, interest, and operating costs. Option 2 is $15.10, which includes interest and operating costs. And option 3, $6.79 operating costs. And option 4, $7.25, price proposed by Community Dental Care. Health and Human Services Director Jamie Goodman Schwartz requested leniency for the Community Dental Care because they received one of the lowest reimbursement rates for the services. And Commissioner DeLayden thought we could look at $6.79 for the first year to allow them time to gain personnel. And Project Administrator Elizabeth Carroll stated that the lease agreement with CDC must be approved by the state. Commissioner Vetch suggested charging a higher rate and paying a portion of the cost with the American Rescue Plan funds for 3 years. By year 4, CDC would be fully charged the full amount. So we continue to discuss that. Commissioner Ketchmark questioned the CDC budgeted amounts for doctors, and we're not familiar with how that works. Also thought that it should pay this $15.10. Commissioner DeLayden stated that CDC is a nonprofit, and Vetch suggested setting the rate at $15.10 and using the ARP funds to assist CDC with the cost. Carroll stated that we could use the ARP funds to grant to award a grant to CDC. Facilities Director Alan Wilczek stated CDC is currently paying a lease of more than $15.10 and suggested a similar rate. Wilczek also expects that CDC would want a minimum of 10-year lease. Ketchmark said it would like a quantifiable number to justify lowering the rent, and questioned if the lease agreement should include language that would increase lease rate if they had a higher profit. So after discussion, the recommendation was to charge CDC a lease rate of $15.10 and use the ARP funds to buy down the rate to $7.25 for 3 years. CDC would be charged the full lease rate of $15.10 in the 4th year of the contract. The next one was a license center space, and the testing space is approximately 655 square feet. Be used by the county on days it's not being used by the state. Vetch stated the funds would receive to fully operate the 93 driver. Funds were received to fully operate null 93 driver and vehicle services locations. However, there's no timeline for reopening. So the recommendation is to start negotiation with DVS with a lease rate of $385 per square foot. The last one was the Wright County Economic Development, and that space is about 950 square feet. We do contribute to WCEDP, and Vetch suggested states that they have access to some free or low-cost locations. Ketchmark stated the new government center is brand new real estate in Buffalo and suggested the lease rate of $19.60. Vetch recommended a rate closer to what CDC is being charged. So there's some citizen benefit because it is a free service to the citizens. The recommendation is to set the lease at $15.10 per square foot. The county would increase the Wright County Economic Development budget by $10,000 to offset the rent expenses for 2 years, and they'd be responsible for any future rent increases. The value to the residents will be re-evaluated in 2 years. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchum?
I'll second that, the minutes and the recommendations, so.
Well, I think we had talked about and agreed about separating the 3 of these out for making motions because it is 3 separate.
So you want to approve the minutes first, Mr. Chair? Do you want to amend?
Yep.
Let's just approve the minutes first, unless you have
All right.
some changes in the minutes itself.
No, I don't.
I will change my motion, Mr. Chair, to approve, a motion to approve the minutes.
And I will modify my second to align with Commissioner Husum.
All right, any further discussions regarding the minutes? Hearing Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right, first item is the dental clinic space, the recommendations. Charge the CDC a lease rate of $15.10 per square foot, using ARP funds to buy down the rate to $7.25 per square foot for the 3 years. And then they will be charged the full lease rate amount of $15.10 per square foot in the 4th year of the contract. So with that, I'd like a motion for that recommendation.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any discussions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Ketchmark.
In addition, and this is in the minutes also, but I'm noting that our facilities director advised that the dental clinic is paying more than $15.10 or $15.10 in other locations. I just wanted that as part of the record today.
And those are places that have been in operation for a while too, so we don't know what they were charged the first time in the beginning. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. License center space. Recommendations, and this is just to start negotiations with DVS for a lease rate of $3.85 per square foot. They will, at this point, they only use their current location twice a week, was it?
Yeah, 2 days a week.
2 days a week.
Hopefully it'll increase.
All right, so
I will
motion.
make that motion, Mr. Chair.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch.
Mr. Chair, please note that if anybody doesn't read the minutes, that the utilization of them being there would more than generate revenue to offset that low lease rate. So they're not getting anything special other than the fact that it's to the benefit for them, for the citizens to be there, as well as them being there. It actually will generate some revenue, so.
For getting their license.
Getting their license,
And the
so.
testing and all that.
Yep.
And I know that was discussed originally too. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carries unanimous. Wright County Economic Development Partnership. This was to be at $15.10 per square foot, and the county will increase their budget by $10,000 to offset the rent expense for 2 years. And then Wright County Economic Development Partnership will be responsible for future rent increases. So I'll look for a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to set that at the 1510 with the budget modification and other stated stipulations.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any other discussions?
Mr. Chair, I don't recall if this was, it's not in the minutes, but part of the discussion is that their former location or current location, they are not being charged rent, correct?
They are not right at this
So, and
time.
that was one of the things that was a consideration point also, so.
And in that, Mr. Chair, the Wright County EDP, even with this rate that we're setting, is absorbing some of the rent costs themselves. And they knew if they were, even if they could stay, and they weren't sure if they could stay at the Wright Tech Center, they understood that there was going to be some costs there. So the charge that they're going to be incurring from us, it would be linear to what they were expecting to have to pay if they stayed at the Wright Technical Center. So it's all aligns fairly well.
Any other questions? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, Ditch Committee of the Whole. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So we met August 10th with Attorney Kreiser and Matt Detchen from Ag and Drainage Supervisor, and we spoke about several of the ditches that are basically pending in the ditch process, and discussed having public hearings that'll be scheduled and giving proper notice for those hearings. there were 9 ditches that were discussed and they're in the redetermination of benefits stage with potentially 2 more on the calendar for 2022. Detchen gave a lengthy presentation on the status of all the ditches and which part of the county and townships they're in. So we're going to wait for a public hearing on most of these to be scheduled, and the rest of it was the tobacco ordinance part of that?
No.
Nope.
Oh, that was the Ways and Means. So that was it. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the ditch committee meeting of the whole.
And Mr. Chair, I'll second that, and just some clarification. Basically, we move forward with the public hearing on all of the ditches listed there sometime in the near future, minus ditch 33, because we have some pending information coming forward on that one. So we'll, not sure when that public hearing would take place for that redetermination of benefits.
I also have, thank you, Mr. Chair, a couple of clarification questions. So on CD 7, in the narrative, it says, schedule Minnesota Viewers Association have completed their report, but in the box ahead at the top, it says that H2 overviewers did the determination or had done the viewing. So just to clarify which was which for the minutes. And also on page 3 under Judicial Ditch 1, it says that H2 overviewers completed the redetermination of benefits, but it said that the system could be combined with CD7. So I was just kind of wondering if that's like when they came out to do it. I don't recall exactly part of that discussion, but because they're in very different areas. I mean, you know, 1 is in Marysville Township and 7 is in Cokato, so not sure if
Janice, do you recall?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. I think, and maybe I can clarify that a little bit better, I think what Matt was saying is that the public hearings could be combined, you know, maybe one right after another because of the size of the system.
Okay.
So maybe I should clarify that a little bit more in the minutes.
Okay, that'd be great.
And then I'd say also her first question regarding who actually did
Yeah, it was
7.
H2O viewers.
Okay,
so
was.
thank you for noting that.
Thank you.
Make that change.
Thanks, Janice.
So I'll amend the motion then with those changes in the minutes.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. You'll second it?
Yeah, I'll second it with modifications, yes.
All right. Is there any other discussions regarding ditch committee of the whole? Not? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Ways and Means Committee, Commissioner Wetter.
Yes, Commissioner Catchmark and I sat in on this committee meeting with many other people present. First, we talked about the buildings at the Wright County Fairgrounds, and the county insures the buildings on the fairgrounds through the MCIT, which is the Minnesota County's Intergovernmental Trust. And after the storms and that, the field adjuster for MCIT came out and he looked at all the shingled buildings on the fairgrounds. And not only was the Welker School looked at, but it was expanded to include the dairy barn and then also the Octagon building. The county received a check for the depreciated amount, and if the county commits to the repairs, MCIT will release the replacement costs with the one deductible. Attorney Kreiser explained that the county owns the fairgrounds, which includes all the buildings, and under the lease, the Fair Board is responsible for maintenance of all buildings that are not movable. The Welker Schoolhouse and the two log buildings are owned by the Historical Society, and the Fair Board has never had any involvement with the upkeep or operation of those buildings. And also the 4-H food stand was brought up, and that has been a separate entity that the Fair Board does not have jurisdiction over. So then we talked a little bit about the 4-H building, and Kreiser again confirmed that the 4-H building or food stand is owned by the county, but the Fair Board or the Ag Society maintains the building. The way the lease reads is the Ag Society is responsible for maintaining and repairing all the buildings under their control in good and safe condition. If the Ag Society does not maintain the buildings in good and safe conditions, the county can repair the building and then bill it back to the Ag Society. Then we looked at talked about the Historical Society buildings. And again, Kreiser explained the Historical Society is responsible for the maintenance and the repairs on the building. And the curator, Hannah King, was there, and she said the buildings were gifted the same way items in the collection are gifted to the Historical Society. There's also 2 cabins on there that have cedar shakes, and they have not been addressed and are not included in the claim with MCIT. The Historical Society is not planning on having the 2 cabins included on the insurance claim because it is looking into grant funding for the repairs. That right now those cabins are locked and not accessible to the public due to safety. And so for recommendation, the committee recommends the $5,000 deductible be split between the buildings at a certain percentage based on the cost of repairs. Wilczek will get bids for the building repairs, which will include a bid for a steel roof on the barn. That's something that the Fair Board had decided that they would like something that would be more permanent than any other type of roofing. After bids are received, Wilczek will contact the Fair Board and Dahl. And basically that was because the Fair Board would decide whether they would just shingle it, the barn or put the steel roofing on it, depending on the cost. Also, work on the 2 cabins will be put on hold until the board can discuss it at budget time. So that is about the buildings at the fairgrounds. Then we talked about the tobacco ordinance. And again, Councilor Kreiser provided us with the updated tobacco regulations. And the state updated the tobacco regulations to age 21 to purchase tobacco. And Wright County at that time became non-compliant. So this amendment was to bring the county back into compliance with the state law. We went over section by section and made a few comments on that. The public health receives grant funding from various organizations for conducting educational compliance checks. If it's an educational compliance check and an establishment is in violation by selling to a person not 21 years old, it's virtually a freebie and no penalties will be imposed. Public health decides before it goes on compliance checks, it will be an educational or an annual compliance check. There were issues also with some dishonest applicants, and the applicant must state percentages of tobacco sales. Applicant may require a letter from the certified public accountant, and the penalties were increased to be more in line with state law. Roughly, there's 80 establishments in the county that sell tobacco products. However, the county does not regulate the cities of Buffalo, Annandale, and Howard Lake because they have their own police departments. So for recommendations, oh, also, I forgot here, Lindsay Meyer asked if the committee would be open to increase the application fee, which is $150. And that's divided between 3 entities, so it's not very much otherwise for each entity to go through that.
What entities?
I think it was the finance department, the sheriff's department, and I don't remember the third.
Health takes the third.
Oh, the public health, yeah. So those are the 3 entities it's divided on. So that'd be only $50 to do between each one. So she suggested maybe an increase. So recommendation, remove the applicant's residential address in Section 8 application. Meyer and Olson will discuss how much the increase to the application fee should be. Refer to the budgeting process for increasing fees. Refer an increase in fees to the public hearing. Send notice to all the license holders that there will be a public hearing in October. And I would make a motion to accept the Ways and Means Committee minutes of, let's see, August 11th.
I'll second.
Motion by,
Oh, with those recommendations, I'm sorry.
motion by Commissioner Wetter, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Commissioner, or Attorney Kreiser.
Oh, you can vote. I'll have discussion for after this motion.
Okay.
Okay. I do have a couple questions regarding the first part and the fair buildings and stuff. So we pay for the insurance at the fairgrounds, 100%? And do they reimburse us, or that's the exact, we pay it all?
We pay that amount for the buildings. It gets complicated because there's different coverage depending on buildings versus property in the open and then for the events that are held. But in this case, relative to the buildings, yes, we pay that.
Do we, I guess I'd kind of like to know how much it's actually costing us for the insurance out at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
In total, if at all possible. And I don't know if it's easy to break out or not, but I'm just kind of curious on how much we are paying for all that.
Yeah, I don't have that information in front of me, but I can
Well,
certainly.
it is.
It's gotta be kind of high.
But again, as far as trying to let people know,
Right.
and especially since they're making money on those buildings in the wintertime,
Right.
I'm just
Renting.
trying to get an idea is all.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we also pay for, I'm assuming the historicals buildings too then?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so if we could come up with a number and if it can be broke down, the best of Tim's ability or MCIT's, just be kind of curious to know.
That's good.
All right, any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, Broadband Committee.
You have a few recommendations.
Just forget about him.
So,
All right.
yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, concerning the tobacco ordinance, staff would like to schedule a public hearing. We're suggesting October 19th. Committee of the whole would probably be best, maybe 10:30.
October 19th,
Yes. Or, yeah, October.
and that's a Tuesday?
I believe
This is
so.
a Tuesday.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for the tobacco ordinance for October 19th at 10:30.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Hewsom, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then, Mr. Chair, on ordinance amendment 21-4, which was reviewed by the committee, as part of our office's review for the all-school safe school meeting that we had on Wednesday after this Ways and Means Committee meeting, we noticed that 3 sections still referenced a minor that were not included in this, and I sent that to the board yesterday. I'd ask that you, I guess you can give me the recommendation or direction, motion, however the board would like to proceed, but to incorporate those 3 sections and changes into the overarching 21-4 amendment.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter.
can I ask why you can't call it a minor?
Well, a minor usually refers to someone under age 18,
Yeah.
and we want to catch
Oh,
people
sure.
under age of 21. Yeah, no,
Didn't think about that.
that's why.
Thank you.
Yep,
Yeah, things have changed
yeah.
compared to what they used to be.
Yep.
Then it used to be allowed to do it at 18. All right,
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair, to make the changes in those 3 areas, sections.
Well, second.
motion by Commissioner Hewsom, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then, Mr. Chair, just for follow-up on your prior question, I did message Tim Dahl, and he indicated he doesn't get a breakdown of the MCIT premium for all of our buildings and everything out there, but he's going to ask MCIT underwriting and ask for a breakdown, and should be forthcoming to the board.
Good.
Thank you.
So, okay.
Yeah, and, yeah, they don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but it'd be just kind of nice to know what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Mr. Chair, Attorney Kreiser, does that include like the grounds too? I mean, so when they're having, is that a whole separate deal? I mean, grounds when,
Well,
people are at the fair and that kind of thing. I mean,
I would like to know what we're county is paying
Yeah.
for that
Yeah,
property,
Mr. Chair.
building and the property.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hewsom, I'm not the best person to ask on insurance
Yeah.
premiums, I'll be frankly honest, but
Right.
I think maybe this is something we can put on a future workshop. Probably be
Yeah.
the best time to do it.
that'd be good.
You know, and then the question is, does the Fair Board have any additional insurance above and beyond what we do?
Yeah, they also have coverage through MCIT, a separate policy.
Well, they got liability, I would think.
Yeah, for,
I'm not exactly sure of specifics of which coverages, but I know they are an MCIT member.
So, since they're leasing the property, are we considered the lien holder, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Owner? We would be the lessor.
Yeah, we're the secondary insurance to a property casualty.
So in the event of something out there, the county would also be provided money or monetary benefit from that insurance or something if necessary?
I think this would be a good workshop topic, and I would defer it to. I would not want to incorrectly advise the board.
Yep, no, that's fine. I just,
Greg will do his insurance homework.
insurance can be extremely complicated.
There is an indemnification provision in the lease, Mr. Chair.
All right. So I guess I'd also like to know what they're paying for insurance, how much it's costing them. All right.
Probably in here.
Okay, let's see, that takes care of that one. Commissioner Vetch, Broadband Committee minutes.
So the Broadband Committee met on August 11th with a variety of different participants. We started off the meeting with a discussion with Shane Zard from Flaherty and Hood and getting some education on some of the funding from the state with the Minnesota border-to-border grants. As the last session, there was funding indeed to the amount of about $70 million that'll be going into broadband grants through border-to-border. So kind of having some discussions about how we go about it and when they would possibly be coming forward for these applications and what information we may need and what would put us in the best position to apply for them. So we got some background information on that, and Flaherty and Hood is getting us some more information. Some of the dates and stuff have not come forth yet at this time. Another discussion came forward with about the RDOF, which is a Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, which is some federal funding that the state has in these regions across Minnesota and across the country, from my understanding, over the next 6 years. The timetables of when those funds are available hasn't come out yet. They are designated to a particular company, and I forget the name of the company in our LTD Broadband, I think was the name of the company, that had the awarded, won the award for majority of Wright County's RDOF zone.
With no experience.
Well, they have experience, but they're not a final mile provider. They are largely in the wireless networks, so they do a lot of fiber from tower to tower and facilitate tower broadband, but they don't do a lot of, currently they do not operate in ISP in providing it directly to the home. So there must be some changes to that. These funds that came off through the RDOF program were kind of like a auctioned off type thing through the federal government. And the federal government's going to fund some grants to get some more service to the individuals, so more to come on that. We also had some discussion about when this federal RDOF program comes forward, if we'd be able to use ARP funds as part of the matching fundings that may be necessary for that program. Flaherty & Hood's going to do some research for us to find out whether that's allowable or not. We also had some discussions about facilitating work with the townships and the need for them to be able to move forward with, when these grants come forward, having the townships to be able to move swiftly through their franchise agreements and easement agreements, and what we can maybe do from the county perspective to help facilitate that. So we reached out to the MAT, Minnesota Association of Townships. Currently, the Association of Townships does not have any standard template franchise agreement contracts or anything. They advise townships to use their own private attorneys. So more to come in that discussions in future broadband committee meetings. We also had a discussion regarding the federal infrastructure bill that's kind of just passed the Senate, which is in the tunes of the trillions, which has $65 billion for broadband infrastructure. Of that $65 billion, Minnesota would be likely, if it's passed all the way through, to get about $100 million more of broadband funding on top of the $70 million that's already in there. So further discussions that we had were about the feasibility study that we're going through with Design 9. Approximately, as of last week, we had approximately 375 paper copies in and about 2,255 online, and we've had substantially more after that, so we are doing quite well in getting our surveys back in terms of broadband in the county. John Holler was going to reach out to the school districts and some of the cities to get it posted on their websites, and that's already been done?
Yep, it has been done.
So with that, I approve the minutes and the recommendations from the Broadband Committee, and we'll be having another Broadband Committee meeting sometime in mid-September, hopefully with Design 9, as they are coming to the ending part of their feasibility study. We're hoping to have that sometime in October.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ryder.
I will second that for.
I just wanted to add, oh, wait, I should ask.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner
I'm sorry.
Houston. Commissioner Ryder.
Yes, I just wanted to add that in the Drummer, Rockford Township had put an additional flyer page in there for everybody to try that broadband, what do you call it?
Survey.
Yeah, anyways, to do that test.
Speed test.
And
Oh.
speed test
Oh, test,
and
yeah.
actually
The rural
go through with it and contact us. So I thought that was very good of them to do that at their cost.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
And it's bright yellow, so you see it very well.
All right. I have a motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carries unanimous.
I'm sorry.
Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Administrator Kelly.
All right, thank you, sir. Of course, this time of year, the focus is on budget, and last week was a few committee meetings on Wednesday. Did have the opportunity to attend the Safe Schools meeting on last Wednesday, which I thought was interesting presentations on the drug use trends they're seeing in the schools. Talked a little bit about right choice, the tobacco ordinance, and truancy. Good meeting, very well attended. Good to see a lot of turnout at that meeting. Didn't know with everything going on in COVID how that would be attended, so I thought it was a good gathering, good to reconnect with some people we hadn't seen in a while. So with that, we had an EDA meeting last week, and the ones that you just did the minutes for. So outside of that, that's what I have to say.
Commissioner Wetter?
Yes. Okay, on August 10th, we had the Wright County Community Action, and it was actually a face-to-face meeting, which our Commissioner Chair, Lyden, did not attend but he was online, so I'll give him that. Anyways, there was the biggest talk was on Head Start, and they had an outcome report, which 3- and 4-year-olds numbers were down, but they expected that this year, and last year, I should say, and they expect this year that those numbers would be up. Anyways, at the end, we had a training on the eligibility requirements, policies, and the procedures, and that was quite informative. And we heard that in Wright County, 7% of the seniors live in poverty, which was interesting. Jay Weatherford, there was who used to be the executive director. There's a search now going on, and it was posted nationally and state and all those different sources to replace him. It was interesting too, they talked about, they switched their insurance companies to Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I don't know what it was before, but they said for a single person, they're paying $10,000 a month, which was less, and now for family, they're paying more, and that was $9,000 a month. So it actually, it sounds weird, but they actually come out ahead with all that, so.
It'd be that much.
Oh, that's for all the employees.
Yeah, the
Oh, okay.
employees. Oh, I'm sorry, what did you think it was?
Individual.
It took me a second to figure,
Oh, I'm sorry.
try to think back.
The employees, they switched
All
with
the
the employee
employees, yep.
insurance. So some of these that are looking at insurances right now in the different departments, going, off, from, what was it, the Historical Society and Soil and Water, they might come out with a better deal, you never know, if they looked elsewhere. Who knows? And that's the end.
Commissioner Reg?
So last week on Wednesday, I had a meeting with staff and Wright County Economic Development Partnership, Jolene Foss from there, and Flaherty and Hood. We had discussions about other funding options that may be versus the American Rescue Plan. Good discussions about what funds may be available through deed. So we were working on some grant opportunities for our Flaherty and Hood was going to assist Jolene Foss in some grant opportunities, maybe for some of their loan opportunities that might be out there, that they could get some funding through deed outside of ARP. More to come on that. So we'll kind of put on hold before we'll bring that discussion back to the board for ARP funding. Also, we had a meeting with the school district business managers and Flaherty and Hood and staff as well. Once again, a very good discussion as well, and getting an understanding of where their funding comes from and what funding they didn't yet. I think you'd be quite surprised to find out how little some American Rescue Plan funding some of our school districts got. St. Michael got a very, very small amount.
Really?
Yes.
Well, they're the second lowest amount per pupil from the state.
Well, a lot of it is because a lot of it is tied to free and reduced lunches. Is a lot of it, and a lot of it's based on other economic indicators within your area, like average home prices and stuff. It kind of plays into the funding as to how much money they get. So, so there were some big losers and big winners. Most of Wright County were big losers in terms of the funding from the state and federal government for school funding, ARP funding. So there is some other, although what they did do is they put a whole bunch of buckets out there of fundings opportunities that they can put in there. And we come to find out that the school districts aren't given a whole lot of clarity to what qualifies. A lot of it is based on learning loss. And now you can develop programs for learning loss, but they don't give you a definition of what learning loss is. So they, believe it or not, I was kind of surprised to find out that they don't get a lot of assistance from their conglomerate entities in terms of, they have a lot of great lobbying efforts, but on the backside in terms of policy dissemination, there's not a lot of help for them. They have to go right to MDE. And school districts' business offices are very small staffs, more often than not a staff of one, so it's very onerous for them to get that dissemination. So right now, Flaherty and Hood is offering them, through us, we are offering them a lot of that ability to get some of that dissemination and clarification into, thanks to the ARP funds, to get that clarification on what they can and can't apply for on these buckets, because it's hard to apply for it when you don't have the definition of what that may mean. So that's one start on it.
That sounds like the broadband stuff at the state level where the deed has to apply for that broadband by the end of September, which
It's, yeah.
oh man, it just, it's why we bang our head against the wall, because there's so much red tape.
So then, also on Friday, then after that, I met with had the 7W TAC region meeting for transportation. This one was more of a follow-up meeting from our previous one, because the last meeting got a little bit contentious in the funding formula, and they wanted to review that policy, and MnDOT and the TAC committee did some dissemination of previous rounds of funding, and to see if it is fair and equitable across the counties in the region. And because there was going to be discussion as whether some modifications need to be made. And overall, after reviewing the last 5 years of funding across the board, it is very quite equitable. There was maybe some minor tweaks. A lot of it was a discussion about were the cities getting their fair share versus the rural parts of the counties, and so it ended up being amicable, and I think a lot of it was just good because there's a lot of new people on this committee over the years, so it was a big learning curve of how the money comes in and how it gets split out. So then, yeah, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Did you go to the Monticello Township meeting last night?
Yes, I did. Oh, yes, and I was at that's another thing I was going to say. The township meeting Monticello Township had a special meeting about closing Davidson off at 25, which MnDOT is always happy to see anytime you remove an intersection. I don't, in the time that I was there, nobody had spoke anything against it. I think everybody was unanimously in favor of wanting to see it closed off, just because it's a safety issue. There's no right turn lane, no turn lane off of 25 onto Davidson. Davidson ends up being just that road where people can just cut across and end up speeding very, very fast on it on a road with no shoulders. So it's kind of makes sense to close it off. So. No decisions made, but it was mostly just an informational gathering meeting.
Good, thank you. Last week, on Friday, we met on the first steps of Central Minnesota, which is coalition between Stearns, Sherburne, Benton, and Wright County. And it's a group that works together with new parents They get a lot of referrals from a number of different places. Wright County WIC, or Community Action, WIC, right now is provided the most referrals at 80 for this year. It was 123 last year.
Wow.
So the WIC program is doing a good job of getting that information in the hands to get those new parents as much help as possible. So First Steps has been doing a great job. They get a lot of compliments from the parents that they've been working with, and it's not, low income based at all. It's whoever wants to help. So a lot of it is majority of low income, but it's just more than that. The hospitals, the clinics, they've all been providing referrals, along with the counties themselves too. So total, I don't think I have a total here, but anyway, it's been doing a great job of helping the parents.
Good.
Other than that, I think that's about it.
I had virtual meetings last week, basically. Had to unfortunately miss the Safe Schools and the presentation by Dr. Balsalanova on transforming stigma, or transforming culture through language change. But did have a virtual META meeting, Mentorship, Education, and Drug Awareness. A lot of our discussion was for the seminar that was last Thursday. The two presentations, one at 3, more for professionals, and the one at 7 for open to the public. They had a good turnout. They also had breakout sessions afterwards, so they could have sit down at the table and kind of discuss what they had learned. So that was I talked to Lori, and she said all but one stayed. So that was a good sign. Some of the people attended both the 3 o'clock and the 7 o'clock sessions. And we also gave a grant at our meeting. We awarded a $500 grant to the Right Choice students and got a nice update from a mini grant that we had given in the past to them. So otherwise, some discussion about community action teams to do some of these jobs as they come up, for example, this event, so that we don't have, too overwhelming for, and all these different things we're working on. But I'd encourage anybody to go on to the META Facebook page, Mentorship, Education, and Drug Awareness of Wright County, and you can view the Dr. Balsanova's presentation. So I think that would be worth it. And also, I had mentioned this last week about the local Heroes Days, and that is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I see the RV Center in Monticello, 3880 Chelsea Road West. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it's to recognize law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, veterans, armed forces, educators, and medical staff. And there's no admission, and there's free food, and we'll have different booths. And I will be there at META booth and at Safe Communities of Wright County booths. So for a couple hours each day, but they're going to have canine demonstrations and just, it'll be a nice thing.
I was wondering how you were going to do them both at the same time.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you're cloning yourself, or
No,
they were
get
just going
one,
to
and then-
cut you
yeah,
down in half or something.
Yep, I'm just going to walk back and forth.
You should just have them right next to each other, and then you could.
Maybe they will be. That would be nice. So anyway, that's all. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I do also want to send our sympathies to former Commissioner Mike Potter, who lost his sister a couple of days ago. And so to recognize that. And also, Judy Wallily lost her husband, and she was on planning and zoning for many years, and also on Buffalo Township for many years as a supervisor. So to them and their families.
And to add to that, former Sheriff Joe Hagerty lost his father.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
Oh,
that funeral's on Friday. I believe.
okay. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, he was a nice guy. I met him at,
Yeah, Joe,
yeah.
Tom Hagerty.
Tom,
Yeah,
Tom died. Oh,
yeah, he was also the state
he stayed
veterinarian.
veterinarian, yep, for many years and was at the fair, did the fair, state fair
Okay.
for many years.
Huh.
He was he was one of our veterinarians. That brought little Joe and made him sit on the bale while he tended to the cows.
Well, Mr. Chair, last week was the Coquito Carnival. They had a good attendance there. Besides the corn, they sold a lot of pork chops. It was a good turnout, pretty nice weather. Had a planning commission, unusually short planning commission meeting last week. A lot of items on the agenda, but a couple that wanted to be pulled or didn't show up. And then the implementation of the timer for speaking made a difference. So we actually fired it up. And I think people got the message. So we were out of there in less than 2 hours, I think, record time.
Yeah.
But both of the meetings we've had in the evening now, 7:30, the room's been full. Some people are having to stand. So it's a really good turnout on some contentious items and otherwise for that.
It'll be nice in the new building because that room is easier to open up and the initial one is bigger and then you can open up to even to a larger area.
Right.
So that'll be nice.
And Safe Schools was covered already, but from last year attending all the meetings, at every meeting they talked about the truancy problem. So it sounds like over the summer, the Attorney's Office and Health and Human Services are implementing different kind of program to address truancy all over the county. So Brian Lutz gave a good presentation on updates on that. Ways and Means was already addressed. Well, that's all I have. Thank you.
And then I forgot to mention that this Saturday, if you have nothing else scheduled, there's a great band at the Gearhead Get-Together in Maple Lake. It's a group called Full Start Diesel, and our own county administrator, Lee Kelly, is the star performer of that band. So anybody interested in seeing that and seeing a bunch of great cars too, because it's cool.
It is cool.
Be there, and he's playing from
What time?
11 to 2? 2 to
We are the 2 to 5 slot
I'm sorry.
with Maple
can
Lake
catch a little bit
native
then
son Mitch Gordon taking the stage at 10:30.
Okay, wow,
Now also Everett Smithson from 11 to 3 in the city park.
okay,
So
cool.
be a fun event. Always is very interesting what people bring. This is a kind of a unique event in that they don't limit it to a car show and
No,
a little everything.
but it is, yeah, I've seen some unique garden tractors, pulling garden tractors last time that were very unique. I've never seen a V8 before in a garden tractor. So, kind of different.
You haven't seen my wheel horse, no.
And yeah, the car show is neat. It's I think it's much more enjoyable, and it's free to the public, and it's much more enjoyable as far as I'm concerned than going out to the state fairgrounds, because I think it's less walking, and it's just a very pleasant atmosphere there.
And, yeah, and the Buffalo Arts and Crafts Festival will be on Saturday also, and they've got hundreds of vendors, so unfortunately, they're, on the same day, because they're
But the
both
car
really
show is
great
more
events.
important, so.
No, the threshing show.
No, that's right, that's last weekend too, but that's in the wrong county, we're not gonna go there.
Oh, come on.
All right.
That's where I'll be.
It is 10:09, we are adjourned.